Take two. All right, so welcome to pre-calculus. Tomorrow will be the last day of assignments. I'm trying to keep it pretty easy. It's vectors. Vectors aren't that bad. But this week you'll have time to work on your missing assignments. I'm opening them up today. You'll have till this Friday, not next Friday, this Friday for my class. I don't know about the other classes. But just let me know what you need. If you're missing assignments, I'm not going to come find you. You have to come and email me, and I'll let you know starting Monday. Also, if you have a certain amount wrong, I'm taking 10 points off for every missing assignment because there shouldn't be any excuse for you to have missing assignments other than laziness. So I'm just taking 10 points off. Make sure you're diligent. If you need any help, let me know. You have the final. It's not going to be stuff on the book. It's going to be stuff based on what I can find and put together. So if you're using the book or the resources, that won't help you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Vectors. Well, vectors it's kind of like a direction. That's how I see vectors. They're not a coordinate because coordinate you think of one dot. Vectors is your position, how you're moving. So let's say we have A comma B. So that means A comma B is in the format of X and Y. X means you only move horizontally, so you're moving left or right. So I'm moving A to the left or right, and then moving B up or down, so depending if it's positive or negative. And when I move to that direction, so from the starting point to my terminal point, I create a vector. So it's showing the number of spaces, how many times I'm moving. So 2 units to the right, 3 units up, but they just refer to that. So whenever you see those little slanted marks on the side, that indicates it's a direction, it's a vector. A is considered horizontal, you'll see that as an X. V is vertical, you see that more as a Y. We're dealing with all three of them. To find 2, so let's say from our initial point to our terminal point, we're trying to find the direction, we're trying to find the vector, we subtract the 2. So your initial point, that's your starting point. Your terminal point, that's your ending point. You subtract the terminal point from the initial point, and then you end up with your vector. So let's go ahead and do that for example 1. So each one, they're going to tell us what they had, our starting, our ending. Here we have initial point, it's a parentheses, so that means it's coordinates. So don't put coordinates in your homework assignment, just put the number. So if I see you put parentheses, meaning I know that you were paying attention to the video, which I've seen a lot of kids do for the other videos. Anyways, your initial point, -2, 5. And I stopped at 3, 7. What is the vector? You could go ahead and graph it and count the number of spaces, but it's just easier to subtract. So here, to find the vector, so I'm going to do vector V. I'm going to have these 2 little triangles here. What you do is you subtract your terminal point from your initial point. So the X is 3 minus -2. And then I do my Y's, 7 minus 5. So what I get is 5, 2. Just making sure it's like 5:30 now. It's my last videos. I always leave pre-calculus to the end. So if you see me looking there, there's what it is. Vectors, so 5, 2 is correct. Next one, we have a vector. We have initial point, but we don't have a terminal point. So that means when we're solving for it, let's say I'm going to put my vectors here. I'm going to have, it's typically written as x2 minus x1, so it's your terminal point minus your initial point. But in this case, we don't have a terminal point, so I'm putting x minus my initial, which is 2. I think that's 2. Yeah, it's 2. So now we have your terminal minus your initial. That's for my x. Again with the y. So your terminal minus your initial. And what we have here is we have 2 different ranges, and we know what our vector is. So that means, according to this, x minus 2 has to somehow give us 3, because that's where our vector is. So that means -2 plus or minus what gives you 3. You can think of it that way, or just set this equal to the vector that you have. So y minus 4 somehow gives us 7. So to find it, we just set it equal to the vector that we have, add 2 to both sides. We get 5. So that means for our terminal point, we have 5 comma. For this one, we add 4 to both sides. And we get y being 11. So that means our terminal point is 5 comma 11. Last one. C. For this one, we're going to graph it. I have this, and we're going to graph it this way. So we have a vector with 2 comma 3, meaning we're moving 2 units to the right and 3 units up. It's positive, so you're moving in the positive direction. So moving to the right is positive. Here we have the initial point. We have 4 initial points. They want us to create a vector W with each one of these. So let's start with initial point 0, 0. We're moving 2 to the right, so 1, 1, 2, and then we're moving 3 up. 1, 2, 3. We end up with a vector like that. Next one is 2, 2, so that's right here. We're moving 2 to the right and 3 up. 1, 2, 3. And you end up with that point. The third one is -2, -1. So we're moving 2 to the right, 1, 2, and counting 3 up. 1, 2, 3, right here. So that's my other vector. Last one is 1, 4, moving 2 to the right, and then 1, 2, 3, 2, up there, and then you end up with this. So you have 4 vectors that way. The book has it too. So you're just counting them. Example 2, finding the magnitude. So if you're looking back over here, we have the direction here. Finding the magnitude is basically finding the length of the vector. To find that, it's your a squared plus b squared, or x squared plus y squared. So it's similar to what we did in our last exam, or last lesson with polar coordinates. Here, find the magnitude of vector u. So what we do is we have 2 and -3. All we're doing is squaring the first one, squaring the second one. 2 squared is 4, -3 squared is 9. This gives us radical 13. Leave it like that. B, vector v is equal to 5, 0. Square the first one, square the second one. You're always adding. You get 25 plus 0. You end up with whole number 5 as your magnitude. Your third one. So we have fractions here, but same concept. So 3 over 5 squared plus 4 over 5 squared. We're trying to find the magnitude. You square root it first. So 3 squared is 9, 5 squared is 25, 4 squared is 16 over 25. You don't square root it first, you add and then you square root it. Because when you add both of these together, you get 25 over 25, which is equal to 1. And the square root of 1 is 1. Finding the magnitude, just like finding the distance or the direction, it's using Pythagorean theorem. That's how they see it, as triangles. But you find it this way. Operations, so how you can operate with different vectors. So when you have u plus v, so you're adding u plus another vector v, you add the x's and y's. When you have u minus v, you're subtracting them, the first from the second one. And if you have a c, the c just indicates like a number that's multiplying into it. So you'll notice here, they're multiplying into it. So that means you'll multiply the first number and the second number. Now let's go ahead and add them. Example 3, we have vector u, vector v, that's what each of them indicate. Here they want us to add it. So according to this, we are going to add the 2. So I'm just going to put here 2 plus -1, comma, -3 plus 2. I'm adding my x's, I'm adding my y's. And when I do that, I end up with 1, comma, -1. Make sure that's correct. Yes. Next one, we are subtracting. So when you subtract, it's the first one minus the second one. So 2 minus -1, careful of your negative signs. And then for your y's, it's -3 minus 2. Simplify and solve. 2 minus -1, or 2 plus 1, 3. -3 minus 2, -5. And that's your second one. Third one, 2u. Whenever you have a 2, that means you're multiplying your vector. So 2 times vector u, which is 2, -3. You multiply 2 for each of the values. So think of distributive property. So then you end up with vector 4, -6. Here we have -3v. So v is -1, 2. Think of distributive property. -3 times 1 is +3. -3 times 2, -6. Last thing, we go ahead and multiply. So 2u plus 3v. So we think of 2 times vector u plus 3 times times vector v, which is negative 1, 2. And we go ahead and simplify. So I'm going to simplify going down. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is negative 3. 3 times 2 is 6. And now I'm adding the two vectors. So now it's 4 plus negative 3 is 1. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. And end up with this vector right there. Not too bad. Pretty simple. Let me know if you guys need any more help. If you need to know what you're missing, let me know. If you want to know your grade so far, I can't give you that. So my email is on there. Bye-bye.